presentation today, I would like to read a piece I wrote for White Ribbon entitled Sex and Violence, Sexual Intimacy with an Abusive Partner. I'd like to also just say that it does have adult and upsetting content, so we'll come with a trigger warning. Sexual relationships within an environment of abuse is an incredibly complex topic of conversation. Apart from conversations that I have personally instigated, I don't know that I have come across discussion in this area. While academically, I am sure there has been research, I found little consolation or conversation about something that, after I had left my boyfriend, I needed to talk about. While counsellors and therapists are an incredible source for healing, my need to feel valued and understood often lies in the understanding of the civilians in my life. As any taboo subject, sex will generally be greeted with giggles, disgust, or clinical evaluation. While I understand that people can feel awkward or uncomfortable, they will never feel as uncomfortable as the women who have had or are having sexual relationships with an abusive partner. While I have many lasting, latent emotions surrounding my experience of abuse, this is one of the last areas I have tried to come to terms with. It is also one of the areas that I have found myself carrying over into new relationships. To be deemed as useless, treated as an object, and told that I had a role to fulfill, sex became a daily worry. When are we going to stop believing that violence has different faces? The inevitability of damage caused by abuse of any kind should have taught us that it is all the same demon. Power, entitlement, dehumanization, objectification, sexualization, control, bullying. It is all violence, it is all the mask of a violent mind. I've been supporting the Turn Off the Red Light campaign for the last 2 years and have been to many events on the campaign. Before attending the first event, I thought that the subject matter wouldn't personally affect me, but I wanted to show my support. I wasn't expecting to identify with the stories told or the issues discussed. I was very wrong. As a woman who has suffered abuse, I thought I had sufficiently compartmentalized my experiences. The stories and theories put forth that day changed my mind. Although everyone's story is unique, I am no different to any woman who has suffered gender-based violence. There is a common denominator in all of our stories: male privilege, male entitlement, and the suffering of women through men's hands. And I stand with my sisters who have had their lives changed through a tapestry of male torment none of us thought would happen to us. There is no isolated incident. Excuse me. I am no better or worse than any other woman who has had their lives dictated or directed by a man who told us he would make it better. He would make the pain go away if we did what he said. I didn't expect to identify with these women in the way I did. The idea of consent is much more far-reaching than we allow ourselves to contemplate. Suspending the right of consent, suspending the idea that we hold bodily autonomy, the idea of male entitlement to sex with any partner is frequent and pervasive and is blamed on the uncontrollable male libido. Why wouldn't I do anything to fulfill my partner's desires regardless of my own feelings or my own comfort levels? This is what I owed him. This is what I was supposed to do to make him happy. My mood didn't matter. He didn't care if my mood was there. I became an object of his power and control, a metaphor for his male sexuality and his prowess. If I didn't do this, I didn't really love him. He was trying to fill a hole in his psyche and personality that he couldn't fill himself. And his power and aggression with which he grew to express his sexuality and needs became overbearing and overwhelming. I was screamed at for not staying awake for him. I suffered the manipulative anguish and anger he would express in coercing me to act in ways I wasn't comfortable. Sex was no longer an expression of love, but a means of distraction, a means to placate, a means to suspend another bad mood or another explosive argument, and another 2 weeks of being ignored or taunted. There were times when I drank to not care that I would have to sleep with him. There were times when I drank so that I would fall asleep and not have to come up with another excuse. There were times I pretended to be asleep, to have my period, to feel ill, and there were times when I had sex with him because I had run out of options. Sometimes I spurred him on, just so he would finish. There were also times when I missed the intimacy of a loving, healthy relationship and tried to find that old friend of making love to my boyfriend. But the underlying feeling that I would be in trouble if I didn't was never far away and would often ruin any genuine affection we shared. There were also times that I needed the comfort of sex and pleasure to feel better about a bad day with my boyfriend. to try and find some sort of physical love, comfort and affection through sex instead of the nasty arguments and name calling. If I could find him in the bedroom, maybe I could find him outside it. Sometimes it was just a matter of wanting comfort, to be loved. If I could just please him somehow, I can get to the other side. It will be over soon. I had no input, however. I wasn't allowed to comment during sex at all, lest I be accused of putting him down or turning him off. If I giggled, I was accused of laughing at him. If I didn't make enough noise, I didn't care. As in other areas of our relationship, sex had ever-moving goalposts and rules that I couldn't keep up with. Once you start using your body for anything other than pleasure or love, once they've been taken out of the equation, it is very hard to hold your self-worth or value. In using your body for the validation of another person, we inhabit a very dark place that has seriously damaging consequences. I know I am not alone in the way I feel about this, and I know other women have experienced the same things and have had to cope with it alone. I know that it is not talked about and that it is difficult, but the silence deafens me. I don't want to be isolated in this. I don't want to be pushed towards doctors and care agencies. I want the people I know to understand what this does to a person in the hopes that it doesn't happen to another. As a survivor of rape, as a survivor of abuse, I stand beside my sisters and ask for the enlightenment of men and boys and the pledge to not harm another. Every day there are women that are going through this experience. Maybe they are planning to leave their partner and have to engage in sexual intimacy in order to maintain an appearance of normality. There are women that are using their bodies to distract and disarm their abusive partners. There are women that are trying to avoid pregnancy with partners who refuse to use contraception. I know of many women that have been scolded for even the suggestion of using, in particular, condoms, as if this was a matter of trust. Then there are then there are the men that break that trust by removing condoms without their partner's knowledge. The phrase barefoot and pregnant didn't come out of nowhere. I have many vivid memories of having to defend my fear over unplanned pregnancy, as if in some way I was insulting my partner. Why wouldn't I want his child, regardless of anything else that was going on in our lives at that time? We were in love, weren't we? His ego was so inflated that apparently he would know if he were to get me pregnant, and would get angry with me at the thought of wasting money on anything as irrelevant as emergency contraception. In addition to that, infidelity is also commonplace with abusive partners, and as such, other major health worries come into play. I'm not sure when the time will come where I don't balk at the memory of waking up with my partner already on top of me, the memories of being told I wasn't good enough if he wasn't satisfied, or the many memories whereby I felt more object than person. I do know, however, that we need to be able to talk about this aspect of life with an abusive partner. There are women who are engaging in sexual activity to avoid being hit, being shouted at, being hurt in any number of ways. It often seems like the easier option to forgo one's own comfort to placate an aggressive partner. The system of manipulation and coercion is never more present than in a sexual relationship with an abusive partner. The feeling of responsibility lies with the woman, of entitlement with the man. This dynamic becomes so poisonous that you begin to believe their twisted logic. Without open conversation on perceived male sexual entitlement and consent, we are only getting half of the story. Violence takes many forms and abuse is at epidemic proportions. Even if he's not hitting you, doesn't mean that he's not hurting you. Just to finish, I would like to read a poem I wrote in the aftermath of leaving my ex. So, bear with me. Across the floor, on bare sore feet, she stumbles in the dark to try and find that broken place where he has left his mark. Burned into her memory now, every pain and all the words he used to break and crush her heart just for his rage to purge. Holding all the pain inside, she smiles and says it's fine, gaping loss of everything that she just wants to hide. The hope was always there inside. She begged and wished it so, that he would stop and comfort her from what she'd come to know. The outside's looking in on her, can't take it for much more, wanting someone to look out for her, to open up a door. Holding all the pain inside, she shrugs and nods her head. There's nothing more to do now, but stare a while ahead. Thank you very much.
I know most of the people in the room know why we're doing I got lucky on Thursday. I got interviewed on the IT Women podcast, and got the chance to mention our four women speakers here this morning. And they've put up that podcast now, so if you want to hear more on this campaign, you can go there as well at lunchtime or after the conference.